Yeah.
This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Wednesday Ed Chat. Today we are joined by Benjamin White from the Unity Center of Behavioral Health, and he will be presenting or helping to moderate our discussion today on social emotional well-being, caring for our students and patients. It's all yours, Ben.
It's all mine. Party people, fire up your cameras. Let's go. Let me see ya. Just a quick invitation. If you are comfortable firing up your camera, it's much better to see you guys, like Patty was saying. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Let's I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen real quick and just get a couple of announcement type stuff out of the way. Let me make sure that I'm allowed to do that here. Oh, here we go, people. Here we go. All right, we're live. Patty, it's happening. It's really going down.
It's working.
So like Patty was talking about using your mute button, that kind of thing, I'm also going to give you the opposite invitation also, that you're welcome to thoughtfully open up your mute button too, because I'm going to ask for a little bit of feedback from you guys. I haven't hosted a whole lot of meetings like this, and this is my first time with GoToMeeting. So I want to remind you that the chat room is open. I've got a couple of people monitoring that chat room. Questions, responses to questions, all those types of stuff are going to pop up. So I invite Jenny and Patty to butt in and let me know at any time if anything's coming up, and then I'll call on you guys to kind of give me a quick summary of some of the responses that are going. I want to encourage you to take what you need from what's happening today. That has a couple of different meanings, but we'll get into what our goals are for the day in just a couple of minutes. But there is an introspective and reflective challenge, I think, in this moment to kind of figure out what it is that you need and what it is that you want from these kind of North America covering Ed Chats. And so I want you to be thinking a little bit about what it is that you both professionally, but more importantly, personally need from this next hour. Having said that, this platform's not the greatest for sharing multimedia and video type stuff. So we do have a couple of short videos that we're going to try to make happen, but if they mess up, it's all good. We'll keep rolling with it. We're flexible. We can pivot. Lastly, if you're a social media type, my colleagues in the social media management team of the executive board would love for you guys to be hashtagging and shouting out the HEAL Association. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, any of those kind of things, look for us at the HEAL Association. Hashtag it, spread the word. It's a really good tool. You probably have used your social media in honing in your practice during these times. And so doing that kind of helps those folks that are searching for that stuff. So I've crafted this I've done the deadly sin of trying to craft this to be all things to all people, but really in the spirit of just being flexible. So I'll tell you just a quick thing about myself. We won't spend much time on that. First of all, you're welcome for that baby picture in the corner. Just a quick glimpse into my early baby modeling career right there. I use he, him pronouns. I'm in the middle of my life, married, just had my 16th wedding anniversary the other day. No children, but I have a huge dog that will probably show up in this presentation at some point. So he also hasn't had a haircut in 6 months, so he has literal dreads going on right now. My professional background, I got invited to host this because I volunteer as a member of the executive board here, and they asked if I would help facilitate a conversation around checking in with our members, what social or well-being and social emotional check-ins might look like with our colleagues and with our students. It's going to dovetail a little bit with last week's, but it's going to be a little bit more specific to students probably on this one. I'm a special education teacher. I work in an acute inpatient psychiatric unit, which means I work with a lot of sad and lonely and frustrated and angry, but kind, tender teenagers. So it was my 13th year teaching, and I started to put that into hours the other day, and it was pretty sobering. I encourage you to do this. Approximately 25,000 hours teaching at this point, so somewhere around 4,000 patient students that I've worked with. So that's been kind of sobering, but to be really vulnerable with you, I think it's been confidence boosting a little bit, especially in this time when I don't always feel confident about what I'm doing and how I'm teaching and those types of things. So we'll touch on that a little bit more later. I'd love to hook up with you guys on social too. Those are my hashtags or whatever, my profile stuff down there: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Let's be buddies. The last thing about me is my style is basically, I'm a collagist. I wasn't sure if that was a word, so I had to look it up real quick. But I tend to, rather than invent, I tend to collect things, and I tend to put them together in ways that help me innovate my practice. And so I just want to give you a heads up about that. My presentations are typically full of all kinds of pictures and videos and practices that we do. So if that's not your style, if you're more like a straightforward linear thinker, I just want to give you a trigger warning. Things are going to get a little weird. Quick overview of what we're going to try to hit. I'm going to walk us through a little bit of self-care and mindfulness activity in a moment, just to kind of take a moment away from schedules and whatever stresses are going on in your life that are probably multi-layered at this point, and just take a few minutes to kind of scan our minds and our hearts a little bit about where we're at. We're going to try to get a little bit of data from you guys actually today, get a quick snapshot of our collection of teachers and see where you guys are at and how you're feeling, what you need. I want to party with you guys a little bit and show you a little teacher appreciation since we just came off Teacher Appreciation Week. We're going to briefly touch on some basic trauma-informed teaching concepts that we have to be conscious of right now, I think, given the context of teaching. We can go into some connection building exercises. I can just share some of the things that we've been doing in our school setting on how to organically and with curiosity connect with kids, given the context of school closures and distance learning and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll wrap up with a little bit on this concept of care. So that's kind of the general overall. Having said that, we're super flexible. We can go whatever direction we want to go. Remember to, like, I'm never going to put you on the spot to like speak up, or I'm never going to put a spotlight. Well, that's not true. Some of you I'm going to put a spotlight on probably, but I really encourage you to use the chat function here. Again, we've got some people that are monitoring that. We're going to inject a lot of that stuff into our conversation today. I would like it to be a hybrid of like showing a few things and it to be a kind of a meaningful conversation for you guys. Lucky for me, every day I teach a group of sad and lonely and angry kids who don't want to engage in school. So I'm ready for whatever dynamic comes in this group. Bring it. To get started, and to be honest, my heart rate is like really racing right now. So I think it's really good time for a quick self-care and mindfulness activity. We start all our classes with something like this, or at least we try to really tie into that body of research that's been growing rapidly recently about the regulation of your brain. And when you do that, your ability to access information, to think innovatively, to connect with other humans, those type of things. Admittedly, this is also a personal challenge to each of us to really reflect on where our heart is right now so that we can meet you where you're at. So I'm going to debut a film that just came out. It's a 10-minute film, and again, admittedly, that's pretty long, but I think it's important. Some friends of ours just put this out in connection with a group called Peace in Schools. This group explicitly teaches and focuses on self-care and mindfulness practices in school settings with kids that are experiencing higher levels of depression, anxiety, things like that. And so I want to show you this film real quick. Again, we may have some technical difficulties and we'll deal with it if they come up. I want to remind you that old saying that you got to put the mask on yourself before you can help other folks. And so I encourage you to kind of take care of yourself in this moment. A quick overview of the video. It's an ongoing, it's a collage, a collection of people's responses, specifically folks that have been trying to build a mindfulness practice in their own life. It's pieces of interviews from each of them, so little sound bites from what experience they're having. So, Patty, you with me? We're going to give this a try. I'm going to turn my volume all the way up. This is how we figured out that it would possibly work.
Three words that describe how I'm feeling in this moment.
Definitely anxious. That's one word.
Fearful, frustrated.
I've been sad. I've been really angry.
Like, how do you encapsulate the feeling of a million words in a word?
I'm vulnerable because my immune system pretty much doesn't exist as I'm going through chemotherapy for the last 4 months. So the vulnerability is real. I feel helpless right now. And when I feel helpless, I want to just do whatever I can to be of service. And my mind is constantly saying, it's not enough.
When I talk about that, I get like a little tightness in my breath, like starts to quicken.
For me, it's a tension in my face and a tension in my shoulders. It's a shortness of breath.
Like a contraction of my forearm, almost like a tensing, a bracing against what could happen.
And I'm feeling the numbness and I'm tracking it through my belly. And it's spreading up through my chest and through my shoulders. And then the thoughts, the narrative starts arising about powerlessness, about being out of control, about there being no rhyme or reasoning to what's happening.
The only thing that I can equate this period in terms of emotional fluctuation and variation for myself is when I've had a death of someone close to me. The grief came a handful of days ago, and I started to feel a little down, and there was some sadness that was there. And I realized that I was missing people in my life.
It's a challenge, kind of obviously, right? It's a challenge for us to do what's being asked of us, which is to not engage with others. So it's a challenge to think again about the collective for me and community versus the individual.
And we are all undergoing a collective trauma. Right? Now, the trauma varies person to person, right? So some people are hit much more directly. And whether that direct hit is their own illness, an illness of a family member, loss of a job, or whether it's a bit more indirect that we're seeing this, we're all experiencing this trauma of just like the rug being pulled out from under us.
The definition that I often refer to with trauma is that it's anything that overwhelms our capacity to cope and respond. And that's exactly what's happening, right? We can't cope and respond. The healthcare system can't. Our government isn't coping and responding. And so many individuals feel like they can't cope and respond. Our capacity to cope is being overwhelmed.
What counteracts trauma? How do we help to transform trauma? It's resilience.
It's really about how can we model, how can we self-regulate, and how can we hold what is happening with compassion.
I've been saying to folks, like, lower your standards. This isn't about feeling good. This is about trying to prevent overwhelm, right? So practices of self-regulation, practices like breathing, grounding, exercise, going outside when we can, are vital because our instrument is our body right now, and everybody's nervous system is in overload.
what's happening is when your nervous system is putting your body into a fight, flight, freeze response, it's pouring blood towards your muscles, and things are starting to get tense and tight so you can get ready to fight or flee. And so if you start to open up and soften your body, then what you're doing is you're sending signals to your brain that like, okay, I'm okay. And so your thoughts can start slowing down too.
Go into your body. Where do you feel the strongest physical sensation? Put your hand there. Breathe into it and say, I am safe right now.
If you are really in the moment feeling flooded or just have so many emotions that you can't regulate your nervous system, there's a very quick and helpful grounding practice where you can name 3 things you can see, 3 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, just to really ground yourself in time and space.
That gives you that ability to step into that space for stimulus and response where you have a little bit more perspective and choice. Then you can go after that with that question, what is it going to be? Right.
What do I love? Who do I love? And am I attending? Am I doing a little personal care? Am I like thinking about how I want to spend my time? Am I nourishing myself? Am I connecting to friends? And am I connecting to myself?
Curiosity, I would say, is the main tool that I have right now to not fall apart. So when those waves are rising really strong, when I'm feeling the forces of disintegration inside of myself, then I can say, oh, all right, let me bring my microscope. Let me look at this really closely. Let me draw it in deep into my heart and see what it means. Where is the lesson? Where is the teachable moment in the rawness and the realness of unraveling?
You know, there's the idea of like post-traumatic stress. There's also the idea of post-traumatic growth. Something happens, there's a disruption. We attend to things in a different way, and we can grow in a way that's like exponentially more than we have before.
What gives me resilience amidst the uncertainty is the knowing that if I can stay present to this moment and how it's changing, that'll help me in the next moment and with whatever happens in that. Doesn't mean I'll be okay, doesn't mean I'll even live, but I at least will hopefully be in a state in which I can adapt as best as possible to it.
When I walk, I pray. And that's my time with what I call the Holy Spirit. So, and what does it give me? It gives me hope. And it takes away the fear.
And I think that's what I'm looking for every day. I seek something that gives me hope in humanity. You know, I look for the silver linings, I look for the blessings, I look for the inspiration to say, wow, isn't that beautiful?
We are being gifted with the opportunity right now to come back to what's important. Connection with people, connection with self, to slow down. We are human beings, we're not human doings.
We're freaking out because this is an unprecedented time. But at the same time, the creative thinkers, the people who can think outside of that box, are looking for other ways to look at it, other perspectives. And that's just because, as a creative thinker, that's your true north. True north is to look for another way to think about it.
I don't know if my mind is big enough to be able to see all the good that could come out of it. And I want to keep the door open for that unknown in a really genuinely true positive light.
I think people have to remember and hold it close to them. If you let it go, then of course it's going to go back to where it is, because the weight of our culture is much heavier than the energy it takes to change it.
This world might bring you to your knees, but you can always choose what direction you'll be facing, even if you're on your knees. And I am choosing to face in the direction of love and of compassion and of tenderness. And I for damn sure am on my knees right now, but I do know what direction I'm facing. And that's how I'm choosing to surf all of this.
Whew. Got me choking up a little bit. It's really important for you guys to know that the board has been taking some time to really think about what it is that our membership needs right now. And I want to ask a couple of questions so that we can survey the room a little bit and see where folks are at. I'm going to put a couple of questions up on the board in a second. But before we do that, I just want to welcome you into this meeting. I feel really honored to be in this position and to share this time with you guys. I don't know where everybody's at. That's part of the challenge of one of these experiences here, is that everybody comes with their own story and their own experiences, and they're very nuanced and very specific and very complicated, and some of us have shared experiences too. And so the board's been thinking about how to best use these EdChat times. And we also suspect that there's been a shift maybe in the needs as this pandemic continues and as we work from home or whatever it is that you're working on. And so in order to best suit this for everybody, I'm going to ask you guys to engage a little bit so we can get some information from you. The first question I've got for you is actually a verbal response question. So if you can fire up your microphones real quick, we're going to give this a try. I'm going to ask you a yes or no question. And I'm going to have you say, no, it's not a yes or no question. It's only a yes question. So if it is true for you, say yes, okay? So that's the directions. We're going to try this out. We're going to be flexible and do it. So if you have been in this field, hospital teaching, liaising, any sort of teaching for less than 6 months, say yes. Crickets. Okay. So if you've been in this field and working in this this part of education for more than 2 years, verbal response is not working. Maybe it's because everybody's overlapping, I'm not sure. So let's move to the chat room real quick. I want to ask you to just type in a couple of answers for me if you can, because this is going to help us understand what who's in the room and who's here. I do want you to be candid about this, having been in this field for a while. Is this the weirdest, most jarring time you have seen in your educational career? I do kind of want to get a quick take on whether you think this is the weirdest, most jarring time in your career. So if you just type in yes, or maybe it could be there was this one other time that was a little bit weirder, that'd be really helpful to get that kind of feedback from you. Just take a couple of minutes or just 30 seconds or so and think about it. The next question coming up after that, in case you're not engaging in that one as much, is can you just give a sentence or two, just a quick field report about your specific work setting right now? Briefly describe what your work is like in your setting right now. What are you doing? Are you remote teaching? Are you on site? Are you maybe preparing, you're at a distance and you're preparing supplemental work for students, or you're working with families. In the setting of the coronavirus shutdown, what does your work look like? Thanks for chiming in. I see folks putting their answers in there. Patty, you want to just kind of freestyle some of the answers that you might be seeing? Will you just read some of them out for me?
Sure. So not surprisingly, many of our colleagues are working remotely. Some working on projects, some providing instruction via video platforms. There are a handful of folks that are on site with their work. So, and then also experiencing colleagues on site being furloughed around them, but they are the ones who are actively on site.
Yeah.
So,
so now we have a little bit of a snapshot, and we're gonna actually record this chat. Basically, we're gonna put this chat into a document of sorts and be looking at this and kind of reviewing that a little bit and help us guiding. The next question is really kind of crowdsourcing from you guys, especially now that we're 2 months into this, and we're looking for a little bit of relevant need from you guys. What are you hearing out there from you and your colleagues? What is it that you feel like you need, would be the most effective, would be the most fulfilling for you, probably professionally, but also personally? And I'm particularly interested in this question because we're all the ones that are out there in our own little work worlds and sensing what those needs are. So if you wouldn't mind just taking 30 seconds or so and writing what you're hearing from folks and what you think folks need, or even what you personally or professionally need, that would be really helpful for us too. And Jenny, do you mind just kind of monitoring this part of the conversation and kind of summarizing a little bit or letting us know some of the comments that are popping up?
Sure. So it looks like people are talking a lot about some direction and planning for next year, getting some mixed messages about what's going to happen next. Looks like a common theme, how to motivate patients who maybe have dropped out of remote learning, some flexibility. I've seeing a lot more about just looks like direction for next year, and some guidance is a really common theme that's coming up. Again, motivational tools, communication with staff, that's more helpful.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys can I invite either of you two to butt in at any time when interesting or provocative things come up in the chat. Let me know what's happening over there. I appreciate you guys putting your opinion out there. The last question for you is just a yes or no. You can just type in a Y or an N into your chat. I'm curious if you are doing this with children at home, if you're also parenting. Just a yes or no. You can put Y or N in the chat. I'm curious how many people are parenting and teaching or working at the same time. Because I praise you. It's amazing. All right, just take 20 seconds or so, kind of wrap up those questions, and we're going to party a little bit. I want to celebrate you some. It's post teacher appreciation week, guys. We're at 11:30. We've probably got about 20-25 minutes left, so I'm going to fly through this part real quick, and we're just going to bounce around a little just to get things going real quick. I'm curious, in your reflective memory in your work during the pandemic, honestly, have you been feeling love, support, and appreciation? I'm curious where people are at, if they feel supported, if they feel appreciated. I've had mixed feelings about that. Feel free to light up the chat box if you want. I picked up a couple of, this is what I talk about collaging. I'm just picking up stuff from all over the place, but this tweet went out last week during Appreciation Week, got me giggling a little bit. Your job even requires Appreciation Week. It means you're not getting paid enough. Teacher appreciation got solidified in this meme too. I was just giggling when I found this one. I hope you guys have seen some of this stuff. Feel free to steal any of this stuff. Use it to support those teachers around you a little bit. Zabble, Zoot, Zork, and Crackle Zam. It's 100% true for me.
And Ben, I'm just
also
looking
hope
at,
you. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I was just looking at some of the responses. It looks like it's a mix of people feeling yes, that they're appreciated, and no, some people saying that they're feeling appreciated in their personal lives, like with family, but maybe not as much as work. Some people also feeling supported at work. So sounds like a mix of responses.
Kind of a mix. We feel like it was pretty evenly split ish.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah.
Somewhere along the way. I got one more video treat for you guys. I hope you guys have seen this too. This is hilarious and shows eventual appreciation for the work that teachers do. I'm gonna give you, it's like a 3-minute video, so let me just play this for you real quick. Oh.
I just wanted to leave you a quick video in case you wanted to take on homeschool by yourself at any point.
Your student has been assigned an individual password for logging into each of their assigned accounts for ReadWorks, Scholastic, WebEx, Dern.
And we have 14 different Wi-Fi's, and we know our neighbor's password if they use Wi-Fi. And when ours is out, we gotta go to his.
Mathletics, Grammaropolis, ABC, yeah.
Eleanor, if you want to get on your Zoom, your name is Viper. Mondays it's at 8:11. On Tuesdays it's at 4:13. And Saturdays it's at 1 a.m. Zoom.
We're not muted.
No.
Oh my God.
I appreciate everyone jumping on today and doing the call.
Oh my God.
What was Ryan's response? Please for
Julia is planting vegetables in her rectangular garden. Use a distributed property to decompose the factor 12 into a sum.
PE time. Go, run. Put the iPad down.
Email address for you would be 178@14.com/school. Eleanor Davis, 17825/941.com/school. Got it? Okay, cool. Why can't I just go 12 times 9?
Even on the iPad, watch a movie or TV or something.
At the bottom are marriage counseling Zoom here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Khan Academy and also the district site.
Oh.
Hi. I just want to tell you that I really am so grateful for everything you've ever done. I regret saying or have any thoughts that like teachers have a cush job because you guys get the summers off because really, I mean, I've got 2 students right now and they're so mean. Dirty in here. And I don't know how you do it. I wanted to put in my 2 weeks, day 1, and here you are, just year after year, being great. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I love you. I really love you.
Hey teachers, we just want to let you know, all the moms want to let you know how much we appreciate you, especially this year.
So much so that I can hear my kids fighting in the other room. So we are feeling a lot of love for you now. We know that your job is harder and you're going the extra mile, and we can't thank you enough.
You do an impossible job, and we can't wait for you to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great week.
Well, just a little bit of humor to get you guys going. I have been entertained by some of the things that we've found just being in the teacher worlds. Hopefully that got you giggling a little bit. Looked like in the chat box you were commenting on that some. This tweet came up today too from a educator, administrator that I really admire here in the area. Quote is, educators aren't struggling because remote learning is hard. Doing hard things is their expertise. They're struggling because without regularly seeing students, their sense of purpose, mastery, and belonging have been shaken. The very ideals that lead to professional well-being. I just wanted to hit on some of those themes, laugh about the complications of the current situation. My job has been bananas since all of this started. But also just take a moment and really, as a group of us being together, really acknowledge the challenges and some of the humor and some of the craziness around it all. And feel free to steal and pass along any of that kind of stuff. So going back to the chat, it sounds like there is some longing for some looking for connection building and ways to connect with kids type of stuff. So we can do some of that towards the end. I want to touch real quick on some basic trauma-informed care concepts, roll through some slides. I'm going to hit you with some Oprah coming up here soon if you want. So prepare yourselves for that. And we're going to laugh a little bit. So just prepare yourselves. Guiding question, in this new frontier of distance learning during the pandemic, what are you seeing your students needing? If you or parents or guardians or whoever it is that you directly work with, what are you seeing your students needing? If you wouldn't mind just commenting real quick in the chat, so that would be helpful so we can record that. I've got a couple of kind of guiding ideas, and then we might open it up for a little conversation. So just take a moment, see if you can respond to this in the chat. What are you finding your students or your families that you're working with needing? Hugs, yes. A lot of stability and structure, it looks like.
We're also hearing, Ben, that access to technology has been something that students are needing, in addition to just knowing that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah. The technology question has been fascinating to watch as different districts approach that in different ways and equity issues with that. I want to go through just a couple of slides that will probably speak to some of this stuff. Found this this meme came across my desk to an updated version of Maslow's hierarchy. Sorry, it keeps popping out. Basic needs at the bottom. You got to have your toilet paper and your Wi-Fi before you get anything going. But this is a classic model that was designed back in the 40s from a psychoanalyst, reminding us that before the human brain can be prepared to intellectually think, problem solve, analyze, those types of things, that basic needs need to be met first and foremost. Psychological needs, needs of safety and comfort, relational and social needs around you. And then when those things are addressed, then the brain functions at a way that it can access information, access emotion, and really move up that pyramid towards ideal situations, ideal neurobiology, ideal what they call self-actualization. And so when we're meeting kids in the midst of this pandemic, we need to be thinking about these things in the background about where kids are at. What is it that is their need? What can we do in our situations to address wherever they might be on this pyramid? So having said that, some good colleagues and friends of mine sent me this picture this morning from their actual teaching job. Shout out to my colleagues, Lisa and Nalani down at Providence Willamette Falls Hospital here in Oregon. This is a quick snapshot of how teleteaching can sometimes go if anybody's actually broadcasting their teaching, or if they're using Google Classroom or Zooms or any of that kind of stuff. Especially in a hospital setting, sometimes this can go pretty complicated. So you gotta have a sense of humor about it. You gotta meet kids where they're at, especially given kids' background. So they gave me permission to give a little snapshot and share this real quick. I'm sure things go much smoother at other times, but I was cracking up when I saw that. Another kind of basic tenet of psychology and human behavior, and this is my nerdiest slide, I promise, is this thing called the trans-theoretical model of change from the 70s. I work in the psych unit, so we talk about these things a lot, but it's important to acknowledge some of these kind of Psych 101 concepts that people and humans and our students and our patients move in different states of change around that circle in an upward spiral. They may be not even thinking about any education or learning or even relationships with other people in that pre-contemplation stage. But regulation and relationship building with humans often helps people move around that cycle right there, and they move from pre-contemplation to, maybe it is a good time, maybe I feel a little bit more regulated, and it's a good time to connect with people and to start learning or start working on our distance learning or work on this worksheet or even think about math or any of that. And then it moves into more and more progress into acknowledging that it is important that we can be intentional about learning, and then moves into action, and then reflection and maintenance and those types of things. And so this is proven scientific psychological models that are used kind of as foundational tenets when we are meeting kids and other humans in kind of difficult situations or traumatic situations. And so just a little refresher on that. I wanted to show this to you real quick too. In a professional development meeting I was at a couple of weeks ago, they shared this slide, which was really refreshing, I think, in this time of distance learning. What does it mean to be trauma informed? At the time, the context is we were getting tons and tons of emails from our administration and I work for a public school district too, so that's an added complication, but the State Department of Education was sending out fluctuating messages and different messages almost daily on what the expectations were early on in the school closure. And it was really stressful and really hard to understand what we were supposed to be doing as teachers. And then they included this in one of the presentations, and it calmed my my lizard brain a little bit and helped me see some bigger pictures about what we should be focusing on with our students and the families that we're working with right now. First and foremost, these 4 concepts of connection, flexibility, some predictability. You guys were talking about the need for structure and even the role of choice in some of that stuff. And then empowering our kids and our families, letting them know that we are present, that we're connected, that we may not know the answer right now, but that we are willing to partner with them and to work together on whatever it is that they need, and that rigorous academics may be a part of it, but likely is not yet a part of that. And so that was refreshing for me at a time when I was stressed. It was really nice to see officially the words of somebody saying it's going to be okay, and that you as a teacher can act as a support for these people. I want to show you one more video. This is my last video of the day, but it's just 3 minutes with Oprah. She is a guest commentator on 60 Minutes every once in a while. She claims that this is, I think she even goes as far as saying this is the most important interview that she's ever had. She interviews Dr. Bruce Perry, the world's leading child psychiatrist on child trauma experiences from Houston. He's down in Houston. They have a one-on-one interview, and then another correspondent is interviewing Oprah about that interview. And so I want to play you 3 minutes of this, and then we'll move into our next stages.
A correspondent answers with Oprah Winfrey.
Oprah, your story for 60 Minutes this week is about childhood trauma. And there's a lot of new science about trauma and traumatic kids. For anyone who's dealing with a traumatized child, what can they learn from your story?
Well, I think that this story is going to, it is my hope that our story on trauma-informed care will not just be impactful, but will also be revolutionary. It certainly has caused a revolution in my own life. And I was struck by the story because it reminded me of my own childhood growing up in Milwaukee. It's not lost on me, the irony of being back in the same city, Milwaukee, where I grew up on welfare, for a lot of negative experiences, sexual abuse and all of that. What's the difference between a really bad childhood and being able to overcome that, and a traumatic childhood and someone not being able to overcome it?
Really, it boils down to something pretty simple.
And the answer that Dr. Bruce Perry gives you is relationships.
Yeah. You also have opportunities to be connected to people in positive ways.
Ben, I think we might be having some technical difficulties on this one, that it's super, super soft.
I was trying so hard to acknowledge
Sorry.
that, but it is not. Fix it. It's not working. Let me tell you what Oprah said. Hey, we need to make relationships with people. Bruce Perry says that the brains that are affected by those early traumatic experiences, including things like what we're going through right now, has the ability to wire the brain differently for people that have experienced that, specifically for kids that are younger whose brains are still developing in that way. And the anecdote to that is people caring for them, meaningful, positive relationships. Oprah goes as far as to say, you mean loving people, and then says, well, you're like a scientist, you're not going to say that, but you may say supportive, caring relationships. I say love. That word can be a little bit tricky, I think, in a professional setting of teaching. But I do want to challenge you and invite you to figure out your way of communicating that care and that positivity and that connection and that love with your folks that you're working with, but also your colleagues and your family. I think these are the driving themes behind what we can do relationally for kids, especially if kids are jarred by what's going on in the world with their schools and their bigger world situations. I personally have crafted my teaching persona around some of Oprah's vibe. Here's like my vision board probably of who's inspiring me right now to be a connection building, relational, compassion sensitive teacher and adult in these people's lives. A little bit of Oprah, sprinkle a lot of Jimmy Fallon, actually put some Jimmy Fallon in there, sprinkle some Jim Krasinski from The Office. He's doing great things on Some Good News. If you're not checking out his YouTube series, Some Good News, you got to see it. It'll get your heart moving. Bruce Perry's nerdy psycho neurocognitive research, and then a little sassy, angry activist Fiona Apple in the corner too. So this is, for me at least, this is my kind of vision board of who I want to be for our kids. I don't know if you do these things. I don't know if you find inspiration from other folks and stuff like that, but I would love to hear who you're kind of modeling your work after right now. For me, in my situation, I broadcast and teleteach into a hospital unit, and so we're basically making a live TV show learning experience every day. And so I think it would be foolish to ignore those people that are good at that. And then I use my expertise in in instruction to kind of inject and sneak in some learning experiences into that. The time is flying. It is 11:50 already. I know that I just ended up sharing just a bunch of stuff. We didn't even get into the Mad Lib that I created for this activity. You people weren't even ready for that, but we definitely should leave a little bit of time just for kind of open conversation and chat questions and see what we can respond to. I do have a ton of ideas of connection specific activities for connection and fun with kids that I'm happy to share in some way, but let's stop sharing this screen and get to any questions that may come up from the chat room. Or Patty and Jenny, you seeing anything out there that I'm blindly missing because I'm just talking about my own stuff right now? What are we seeing? I want to leave the last couple of minutes for some question and answer time too. We've got about 7-ish minutes left. I'm sorry that the time is flown by so fast, but we're trying to hit that balance of providing some tangibles and some inspirational stuff, but also answering some questions that may pop up. So feel free to use the chat box, ask any questions, give any positive affirmations to people around you. Remember what we reflected on and the things that we need right now. Let me know what we can do. Patty and Jenny, we seeing anything out there?
Well, I was just gonna, if it's okay, I was gonna add, I just think that piece about connection is just so important for us to remember. And along those lines, I heard a talk earlier this morning. They talked about connection as being the new vitamin C and how important it is to just boost the well-being of the kids that we work with. And especially, there's some thought about just how long and how significant the mental health impact will be on people for a long time. And so thinking about that is, in some ways could be the second wave that we see. And so again, remembering how important that connection and relationship building is and how we contribute to that and have a role in doing that for the kids that we work with every day.
Yeah, thank you for injecting that into the conversation. I appreciate it. Given everybody's kind of situation, I hope that our attempt at trying to give you guys a little bit of inspiration, give you a little bit of a refresher on some general concepts of goals. It's hard to, I'll just say the reason that I put that hours thing at the very first, one of the first slides is me trying to wonder if some people call us experts, and I'm not sure if I'm an expert or not. I don't know, just because you've been doing something for so long, but it's hard to go into an activity like this and know the answers because we're in very unique situations and just globally in a unique situation, but individually in a unique situation too. And so I wanted to just kind of give you guys a bunch of stuff that you could steal. Put my contact information out there if you guys want to talk. I mean, those are things that I'm confident about. I feel like I'm a good collector of resources and a good filter for things that work with kids and specifically kids that may not be that engaged, connection building type stuff. And I feel like I'm a good converser and bringing people together type of a person. And so I'm going to continue to be available to you guys through email or social media or any of that kind of stuff. But an hour is probably just not enough to kind of do meaningful conversation and do resource sharing and hit you with those emotional videos that I love. Pat, do you see any other themes out there on the chat boards we need to hit up before we start winding down?
I see lots of positive affirmations for you and your sharing of info and vulnerability. So thank you, Ben, so much for all that you give to the organization, to your students, and to those you engage with. So thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it.
As we kind of close things out, we will be posting these. I just realized today that we had not yet posted last week's video chat. We will do that. The Ed chat will be posted hopefully in the next day or so, as well as this one. I'd also like to invite everyone back for next week. We are fortunate to have Karen Sexton from Cincinnati Children's, who is going to, it hasn't been posted yet, but we just solidified this week. She will be presenting on school avoidance and refusal, supporting students, families, and school teams. And so I know that we're going to be talking about what that means for our students currently, but also how this, as Jenny said, you know, the impact of what we're experiencing now, how that may impact our kiddos as they are expected potentially and hopefully to return to school in a normal way in the fall. So looking forward to that.
Can I end
Keep
with
doing
one?
what you're doing. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Can I end with one quick comment too? I feel compelled to do this. I want to model this for you because this is something that I've been working on with my kids too. A way to say that you love your kids or that you care about them. And I essentially just say the same thing that I'm going to say to you now. I genuinely care about all you guys on this call. And I know that that can be kind of weird because most of us have never actually met. But I believe that that's a real thing. I mean, my kids are in the same situation. I tell them that I care about them, but I'm never going to physically be in the same room with them. And I think that that's a key to what our role is right now, is just expressing that even if it's a guy broadcasting from his basement to you, is that I genuinely care about you and that somebody cares about what you're doing and that we understand what you're going through. So thanks for having me today, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. We will see you all next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye, guys. Take care. Ciao.